Hi, my name is Philipp Kristian. I deal mainly with the topic of innovation and also how the way we trust is transforming and how that's enabling new types of innovation, both in human interfaces, in the way that we conduct our economic lives, but also in terms of how technology is actually being part of the trust building equation. And obviously blockchain is one of the key topics in that area that people talk about. Well, I believe the future is always going to be determined by whether humans are willing to adopt technology. And I think with blockchain there's been a lot of skepticism as to what it does, mainly because it's very hard to adopt anything that you don't understand fully. So there is going to be a certain maturity phase where we start accepting probably blockchain and smart contract in particular, just like any other technology that has actually so-called invaded our lives. But the beauty that we can envision is that a lot of the current trust building processes in our daily lives are actually quite difficult, and especially with large transactions, they are quite costly and they require a centralized intermediary. So as the world is decentralizing, as the nature of work is changing, as freelance is becoming the dominant way of working in certain parts of the world, we're going to see decentralization of trust. And the decentralization of trust happens between people, like on a carousel or on a any sort of platform like Etsy, where individuals become both customers and makers. But it happens on a much broader scale in the global economy with the help of technologies that automate trust building. So we have to look at both the human side of how trust is becoming decentralized, and to a certain extent how the platforms that we use every day are actually intermediating and creating trust between strangers. And at the same time, you have to look at the technology side of things, which is actually taking out the middleman and allowing us to do the trust building that we do today with a much leaner setup. And that actually is the core of the global economy, because without trusted intermediaries, we wouldn't be doing any business, right? That is still the essence of how the economy works. And technology is providing us an avenue to actually create a much better way of conducting this particular core aspect of how we live and how we especially exist in an economic sense. So you look at blockchain and things like smart contracts as applications on there, or cryptocurrencies, can change the status quo by obviously empowering the individual and empowering the people actually doing the transactions to decide how they are going to be conducted. And there is no longer reliance on a central intermediary, which is interesting, because if you look at the way that technology has evolved, our communication, for example, it used to be by default, the desk phone, then it became the mobile phone, then it became email, and then eventually it became mobile chat. But the idea is still that there's always a kind of intermediary somewhere, right? It's just that the intermediary has become better and has become, in a lot of ways, more comfortable and sort of shaped the way that we communicate. Now, the same is going to happen with any high-value transaction that we have day to day. The intermediary will no longer be central. It will be the technology. But much as that's great, it also means that, of course, we might be trusting technology too much. And human history has shown many applications in which we are actually enslaved by technology. The internet is a brilliant example. It's created tremendous progress in economic prosperity, but it also in a way enslaves us. If you look at how much time we spend on the internet, it shows that the impact is much larger than we could have imagined. So when we look at blockchain as an enabling technology, the promise is vast. But we also need to understand that too much trust in technology can catch up with us, and that for sure, if mainstream adoption of blockchain applications happens, that it will change our lives more than we can currently imagine it will.